I think peacekeeping is something that is still going to be part of what Canada should be doing in future. I think that is part of our DNA, and I hope we're going to do that. I know we've been in a much heavier conflict in Afghanistan, but I don't think that means it's the end of peacekeeping. It certainly should not be. In terms of the responsibility to protect, we, to a great extent, are the creators of this doctrine, because it was the International Commission that was established by and funded to a great extent by the Canadian government in 2000 that led to a report that led to the United Nations adopting the responsibility to protect. I think we have an obligation. I think we've neglected it for the last few years. I think we need to be front and center and be a leader in it.
We have a long history of involvement in this kind of thing. Indeed, in the creation of the United Nations at the very beginning, Canada played a much more significant role than our population would suggest. The fact that we have that reputation, the fact that give or take, but overall, we Canada, I would still be very proud to say, has a long history of involvement on the international stage that has developed a lot of respect. That when you have that respect, you actually do have an obligation. I think there are too many other countries in the world, like the United States, for example, where there isn't a level of trust. And so those countries that do, yeah, I like that word. I think we do have an obligation, and I think we're incredibly well positioned to build on that. If we're not necessarily in a position to do peacekeeping between states anymore, because the world has changed, maybe you look at a situation like Syria and think, okay, you're not dealing even with two sides. You're now dealing with a government, you're dealing with rebel groups that are not unified. There are all sorts of people involved. Maybe there is an opportunity for peacekeeping within that context. It's not ideological, it's not taking anybody's sides, but the entire goal is to just stop the bloodshed for a while and maybe get people to the table.
It's ironic that now that peacekeeping is far more complex and difficult, that the developed countries have packed it in and have relegated it to developing countries who are providing over 100,000 troops in a whole bunch of missions right now and don't have the equipment, don't have the development, both educational and professional, to be able to handle these very complex missions that are being articulated since the last 20 years. And so where I believe there's a failing is the fact that peacekeeping during Cold War, nation states against and peacekeeping in this era where you have imploding nations and failing states is two complete different arenas. We have essentially been watching missions fail and simply use that as an excuse for not engaging. And so why not protect the political decision by playing with the UN, with NATO. And so we're under the cover of NATO and we can do that, and that's safer than falling under the command and structure of a UN that's still trying to grasp what this new conceptual framework of peacekeeping should really be in this era. And so we are preventing the UN from progressing significantly in trying to meet the challenge of our era by abdicating our responsibility of being engaged within that process.